All right, so let's check out the data we just imported. So to do that, we go to Air Data in the navigation tree. You click on that up or down caret, and let's take a look at the raw data. So you click raw data. It says you were looking at your site ITEP2. Is that the site you want to look at? Yes. And right now I only have one parameter coming in, and my data is hourly data. I want to look at the data local time. And here in this date panel, if you click in it, it provides options, including commonly selected options like last 7 days, this month, last month. I'm going to click custom range, and we imported TOM data for January 2020. So I'm going to click this back here to January. I'm going to select 1, and then you just click on January 1, and then you just click on January 31, and then you say apply, or really you can just click anywhere. And now you see that those dates are in this panel. I say go. I say go. Woo! Check it out. So you could see that those level 0 validation checks impacted the data in a way to flag and identify values that don't meet those level 0 validation criteria. Let's check out in more detail January 19th through the 22nd or so, when we had some data that really was not meeting those level 0 validation checks. So to look at this in more detail, I just select part of the graph, and then it rubber bands to that selection. And now you could see that the data represented in this graph is flagged, and is really, you can see that the data represented in this graph is flagged. If you hover your cursor over the graph, it will tell you the exact value and the date and time. Sometimes the date, especially if you've only got like a day here, it doesn't show up, but if you just hover your cursor over the points in the graph, it'll tell you the dates. So this value is red, and the reason that it's red is, if you remember those level 0 validation checks, the TOM PM10 is not going to be accepted by AQS if it's less than -50. Now, that doesn't mean that for whatever reason that might not be a valid or a useful data point for me, but it is a way to screen out data that is probably worth investigating further. So you could see this value is -55 because it exceeded the min, it was outside the min and max interval. It's red. You could see there's other red values here. So this one was 111.24, and that's outside the range that goes up to 65 micrograms per cubic meter, because we want it to be alerted as to any high levels. And we don't see that much high PM10 around here. This 93.48 is also red because it is over 65 micrograms per cubic meter. And this value here is purple. And at first glance you might think, well, why is that purple? But if you look at it, remember we said we wanted CREST to alert us and identify records that change more than a certain amount from the previous record. So the fastest way, and it's a good thing, so the fastest way to access what those limits are, in fact all of the polling configurations, is you go to Reports and Data Export. And this doesn't just mean, remember, data doesn't just mean the measured concentrations. It includes all the information that's used to support that data point, including monitors and polling configurations. So you could export air data, but right now we're just interested in what were those level 0 checks. So I'm going to select ITEP2, and I am going to just select monitors. And I'm just going to select monitors. So I say export data, and it says, okay, would you like to open this Excel file with Excel? And it opens up a Excel file that has the information about your monitors, including these limits. So we could see this is 81102, this is our PM10, method code 079, POC3, and we have the minimum and maximum, so that's -50 to 65. The amount change from one record to the next is 30 micrograms per cubic meter. So let's go back and look at our graph again. And you could just use the back arrow a lot of times too in Crest, and it will save the last view of the page you were looking at, which is useful. So now we know that the record change is 30, that calls for a alert. So right here we've got 93.48 and the next concentration is 54. That's more than 30 micrograms per cubic meter. So this, because of this large change, was flagged as purple. This actually looks like real data to me. This is just a way of Crest alerting us to something that might need investigation. And of course these two just slightly higher than the 65, so 65.4, it still alerts us and flags that value. And then this next concentration is 34, so it's purple because it changed more than 30 micrograms from 65.4 micrograms per cubic meter. So that basically is importing data, and we can look in more detail at the data in the panel below, and you can see that the Crest flags were applied in this column called flagged. So minimum, that flag was applied to -55, jump because it jumped from -55 to 3, and if you want to just sort anything in this table, you see these up and down really light gray arrows, you can click on those. So if I just want to look only at the flag values, I can click on this twice and it toggles it to min, max, max, min. So right here, now it's sorted in alphabetical order, or reverse alphabetical order it looks like, these flags. But in any case, it puts all the flags at the top, and you could look right away and see what was flagged, including some hours where we did not have enough measurements and there is no value. So it's saying few for these rows. So that's useful. So if you wanted to view just the data table, you can toggle this, and that toggles back and forth just showing the graph or just showing the data table. And I love this graph with the beautiful colors. So in our next video, we'll get into this data a little bit more in terms of reviewing it and assigning AQS null value codes as appropriate.